Hello and welcome back to the podcast. It's been a while, and I'm glad to be having the time to get some episodes recorded, especially coming up to the holidays, which is what this episode is going to be about. This is such a loaded time of year for a lot of people. It's usually one of the busiest times of year for me within this profession. And today, I just wanted to be talking a little bit about just some thoughts around the holiday season, surviving the holiday season, and just talking about it from the perspective of some of the things that come up for people seeking help. Just some things to keep in mind. And I think one of the most important things to recognize is that coming up to Christmas, like a lot of people have conflicting feelings about this time of year, and there's loads of reasons as to why this is. Some people can be very excited. They can be looking forward to meeting their family, seeing kids, nieces, nephews, their own children's experiences. Some people have really good family dynamics. It's good reconnecting. It's one of the best times of year for them. And for other people, there's loads of other triggers that can come up for them at this time of year. For others, it can be a time of intense anxiety, fear, worrying about spending time with their family, situations, maybe even with in-laws. It could be catching up with old friends. It could be self-esteem stuff. It could be loads of different things. Some of these systems aren't actually even safe for them to be a part of. Not everybody has safe family dynamics. When we start to look at aspects of expectations that people feel that they need to meet in order to be a part of their own family, it could mean having to self-betray, not have needs, not use their voice, minimize themselves, play small, deny who they are, how they feel, just even to remain a part of the family system. Any aspect of the self is lost, in order to get by that time of year. For others, there can be a real genuine fear of conflict. And this can come down to a load of different things. People having different views, different personalities, different temperaments. As I mentioned there, that safety piece, but also people drinking too much, people getting aggressive, people being judgmental about other people's life choices, where they are in their own personal timeline in their life. People fear uncomfortable conversations, about their relationship status, if they're having kids, if they're going to settle down, if they're in a relationship, if they're being compared to others or judged for who they are, the decisions that they've made in life. And it can be a lot. Like, people can be, sweating this and having anxiety around this for weeks and weeks at a time. For other people, this time of year can actually be very re-traumatizing, especially if the harm or abuse was caused within the very system, the very family system. There might be a lot of stuff that hasn't been attended to, hasn't been addressed, has never been acknowledged. For other people, they could be dealing with very real trauma just connected to this actual time of year. The season in itself is a reminder of a very difficult period of time in their life. There's so many reasons people are walking around destabilized, dysregulated, overwhelmed, and stressed, and it's not always what we might think. We only see the tip of the iceberg very often. We're meeting people in very various stages of overwhelm. Even before we start thinking about financial pressure and all the stuff that comes with this time of the year, there could be a lot of mental and emotional stuff coming up for people. People have had to leave very unsafe dynamics. They're worried about going back in. They're maybe even judging themselves if they de-enmesh or pull back from these systems. For other people, if they have tried to safeguard themselves and they've maybe let that expectation go of being around their family, that doesn't mean that they're not dealing with intense grief. They could be overwhelmed with loss, loneliness, all those types of things could be coming up for them. They may be judging themselves that they don't have a normal family, that they don't have normal Christmases or normal family experiences. And the more people you'll talk to about this, if they allow themselves to be transparent on how they feel, the more you'll actually recognize that there is a lot of people that feel like this. They could be carrying grief, embarrassment, shame, guilt, anxiety, all connected to their family, all connected to the experiences that they had growing up, maybe their experiences of, their adult family relationships. And it's a lot it's a big ask too for people to go back into these systems, maybe with their partner, with their own kids, and they're not sure how to navigate this. They mightn't feel resourced. And I think what really sets this off for a lot of people too is the non-stop Christmas marketing on TV, social media, and online. It's never ending. From the minute Halloween stops, maybe even slightly before it, you're just getting bombarded with messages about happy families, happy Christmas, perfect presents, perfect dinner, well-behaved kids. Everybody's loved up and feeling loved. And that might not be your experience. It might never have been your experience. And many people are left feeling like there's something wrong, there's something missing, that they're judging themselves, and they're maybe conflicted because they actually do hate this time of year. They can't wait for it to be over. it confronts them with a lot of unmet needs. Part of this is also maybe even the inner child coming forward. It can bring up a lot of stuff from childhood. The inner child can really make itself present and felt. Big emotions, big disappointment, unmet needs. All the hurts from long ago can start to come up and surface. You might be reflecting on times gone by. You might even have kids yourself. You might be reflecting on your own memories growing up, or trying to stay present and do your best as a parent now. And that can also bring up trauma for people, as I mentioned there. Stuff that hasn't really been processed. And then, like, the financial pressure. This is always a massive piece every year. This idea of keeping up with the Jones. All this posturing that goes on social media, unrealistic expectations or assumptions around spending. People spending way outside their means to make themselves feel enough, or falling into grand gestures to kind of win their partner over, or make them feel loved, or make them feel acknowledged. But even in doing that, they might even miss the mark. Despite their best intentions, working crazy hours, running themselves into debt, feeling overwhelmed and like stressed out. That might not even be what their partner needs, mightn't even be what their partner wants, but it's all that pressure, all that expectation, all that anxiety just building and building and building. And sometimes you just need to take a pause and exhale and actually sit and recognize, is this even necessary? Is this an expectation I'm putting on myself? If I got an assumption of who I need to be or how I need to spend at this time of year, is this even something that my partner would value or appreciate? Or am I doing this because I'm overwhelmed and I don't know what to be doing? So that was I know it was a bit of a mishmash of a few different things, but I think I'm just thinking out loud about a lot of stuff that can come up. And as I mentioned there about grief, even grief letting go of a family system, it could also be the first year without somebody. Your relationship may have ended, could have been decided upon, might have been sudden, might have been through cheating, infidelity. It could be any amount of things that have happened. And with that will also come grief. The grief of what was, the grief of what could have been, reflected on times gone by, adapting to the first year without this person. And there's also a lot of fear and judgment around the transition that comes post breakup. What other people might think or feel, their opinions, their perceptions. Although you can't know them, there can be a lot of big feelings that come up for you, when you're back in and around your peers, back in and around your friends and family or your hometown. And it can bring up a lot of big emotions, and it's important to meet yourself with a level of compassion. It's a big change. I'm worrying and stressing about this isn't going to change anything, because you're not actually aware of what other people will think and feel. But one of the big responsibilities is to be gentle with yourself, to attend to yourself, to actually recognize this is a big, difficult life change for you. And it's about looking after yourself. It's not about, disclosing how you're feeling to people before you're ready. You're adapting to a big change. And obviously this time of year is going to heighten that, as I said, with all the pressure, with all the marketing, with being around friends and family and all that conscious and unconscious comparison that can come up. And on the topic of grief, for a lot of people, it might be their first year without a parent, without a partner. As I mentioned, it could have been a relative have passed away. It could be an anniversary, and it can be hard. Like, this time of year can bring up a lot of emotions for people. Just because it's been a passage of time doesn't mean that this has made it any easier. It can still be intensely painful, and it can be bittersweet even as a family getting together, because they might not have fully processed the loss. They still might deeply, deeply love and miss this person. And it can be a hard time of year to move through regardless, and there can be big emotions connected to this. So it's just important to kind of hold that perspective that we're meeting people, and we're navigating this ourselves. We're all going through some big stuff, whether we acknowledge it consciously or not. And I think it's healthy to hold that perspective at this time of year. For others, it's totally okay if you love this time of year. It's totally okay to be grateful for having a happy family, a safe environment, really good relationships with your siblings, your in-laws, your kids, all that stuff. It's amazing if you have that. But it's also important to recognize that, we don't all have those experiences. We don't all have those safe containers to go back to. Some people are very lonely. And as I said, I have so much empathy for people to try and seek help at this time of year, because I fully appreciate how intense it is. Every year, the holidays bring up so much for people. They bring up so many big emotions that a lot of people are silently struggling. And I think that was the word I was trying to find, silently struggling. And I think if anybody's listening to this and this is resonating with them, specifically around the family dynamics, and I'm not going to put all blame on family dynamics as being the main reason. There's loads of other dysfunctional stuff that can happen at this time of year with even intimate relationships with your partner. There can be a lot of shit that can kick off. But if this aspect of not having a safe family container, or say maybe it's even your in-laws, just worth exploring with this. Some people have difficult dynamics with their family, and it's important to recognize this isn't like a singular thing. You're not alone. Many people, many people have families with intense stuff that goes on behind closed doors. Just because you're not aware of it doesn't mean it's not happening. There can be loads of dysfunctional dynamics that are going on that nobody outside that system knows about. However, just because it seems normal to the people in the system does not mean that you need to stay in an unsafe environment and tolerate any kind of abusive behavior. And I have to stress that just because it's become commonplace does not mean it should be accepted, especially where there's a risk of harm or abusive behavior present. You know, as you get older, I don't mean to say this in a condescending way because, some people can come to this conclusion very early. You might not like everybody in your family. There might be certain people that you actually have massive issues with. And as you get older, you'll grow further apart. If you act upon that, some people can double down on their behavior. They can become more difficult. They become much more of an asshole when you're around them. And you don't have to like them. You don't have to have time for them. You don't even have to have a relationship with them just because you're related. You fucking don't even owe this person anything. If this is who they have chosen to be and how they've chosen to show up, you can't always have healthy or safe relationships with family. It's just not always possible. Anybody that's not interested in creating a safe, healthy relationship with you, at a certain point in time, you're going to end up letting it go. You're going to put distance there. And it's difficult. There's going to be grief and loss and judgment, and all that stuff's going to come up even in and around that. But you need to see them for who they're choosing to be and how they're choosing to show up, how they're choosing to behave. And sometimes it's about you giving yourself permission, because other people will have judgments on what you may do to take care of yourself. They might not see eye to eye. They might not even validate or even acknowledge that you needed to do that, because some people have very unhealthy beliefs around family. But this is that you have to take care of yourself. And just on that, when you're in a system and you know that it's not really safe, you feel like it's costing you so much to be in it, one of the things that you have to look at is your expectations of self, or the expectations that are being placed on you to be a part of the family. You don't have to be like everybody else in your family. You don't have to have the same opinions, the same belief systems, the same thoughts or feelings around certain things. Being a part of a family shouldn't cost you your voice, your authenticity. You're allowed a voice, you're allowed opinion, you're allowed to speak up for yourself, to ask for what you need, and also you meet them with a level of respect, a level of courtesy and all the rest of it. So it's only right that you're met with the same kind of things. And this is it. Satir spoke about this a lot. Similarities help us relate and connect each other, but it really is our differences that help us grow. You shouldn't feel like you have to tone yourself down or disconnect who you are at your core in order to be in this system. You shouldn't have to self-betray, deny who you are in order just to be a part of the system. And as I said, if it's a very safe or if it's a very unsafe, very volatile, very dangerous situation for you to be in, if you're constantly walking on eggshells, worried about the next thing kicking off, if there's an actual risk to your safety, part of this that makes this journey really difficult for people is recognizing that sometimes you have to lovingly let go. You have to lovingly detach, because you can't be in a dynamic with somebody that's potentially dangerous or unsafe to be around, especially if they're committing to behaving in those ways, won't take any responsibility for it and putting this on you. That doesn't make it easy. It doesn't make it any less painful. It makes it fucking atrocious. It makes it horrendously difficult to move through this thing. But in the midst of this, it's about trying not to judge yourself while you're going through this, because it's a lot. There's a lot of grief, as I said, that can come up. And looking at the system, looking at what it's costing you to be a part of that family system at Christmas time is so important. Because there are all these rules and expectations around who you need to be, what you need to tolerate, what you need to allow or permit in order to be in the family. You might be turning a blind eye to certain behaviour for the family's sake. You might be self-betraying, as I spoke about. You might be moulding yourself into an idea of what's expected. And really what's happening is you're compromising your own mental and emotional and physical well-being in order to do that. And that's you can choose to do that, but I think for a lot of people this time of year seeking help, they recognise that it's having a toll on them. So that was a wee bit of a rant, but just on that, things that can help you during this time of year, I just want to give you some actionable bits and pieces, like allow yourself to say no. So this might be being aware of your nutrition, your hydration, how much alcohol you're consuming. You don't have to drink, you don't have to eat bad, you don't have to do certain things. You can turn down invitations to social events. You don't need to run yourself ragged, running around trying to meet absolutely everybody, meeting their expectations. If you need to take some time to yourself to rest, allow yourself to rest. It's about balance. You can't pour from an empty cup. You might actually need space when you're back in and around people, and that's okay as well. A big thing, well, it's always a big thing, but especially around this time of year, establishing boundaries. So having boundaries around what you're comfortable talking about. So this could be specific, like with family, it could be with in-laws, it could be friends, it could be about your plans for marriage, kids, career, settling down, anything that you don't find appropriate or comfortable. Allow yourself to communicate a boundary on it. You aren't obligated to disclose every aspect of life, just to family or friends, just because it's the holidays or at all. You can decide if or even when you're ever ready to talk about certain things. Don't allow yourself to be guilted, can't even fucking speak, guilted or pressured into disclosing something before you're ready, or made to feel like there's something wrong with you because you don't want to have to disclose it. That's another thing that can happen sometimes. And just on that, boundaries are always necessary. They're always necessary for healthy relationships, but it's about not allowing them to become walls either, where you're completely closing yourself off and isolating yourself. And it's not about being rude either, and it's not about being aggressive or disrespectful. It's about assertiveness. It's just about being forthright and direct about how you're feeling, what you will or will not tolerate, and about expressing your own voice, your own views, your own opinions, how you feel. If you're doing that from a place of love and respect, you just want to be met with the same energy in return. If Christmas is a painful time of year for you, whether it's through abuse, whether it's through grief, loss, or whatever, you don't even have to do it. You don't even have to celebrate it. It's not even that it's to do with religion. It could just be that this is a painful time of year for you. You might be completely dysregulated, might be overwhelmed. You might be sitting in the house wishing and hoping that it would just pass. And that's okay as well. Just honor and respect yourself at this time of year. Do what feels right for you. And that might just be like treating it like any other day. And that's okay. It's completely okay. Make time and space for yourself, as I mentioned, taking time to rest. Especially if you're not somebody that's overly extroverted, and you're suddenly being thrust in and around a lot of people and socializing. Take a wee bit of time for yourself, attend to yourself, make time to decompress, and don't neglect your self-care. Try and keep some sort of routine in place, especially with all the excess food, alcohol, and all the other stuff that goes on at this time of year. Just try and take care of yourself as best you can. I think one of the big things people can catch is, having that boundary with yourself around not spending outside your means, being thoughtful and intentional with gift giving, but not pressuring yourself into spending excessively, going way beyond your means, or putting yourself in debt for the sake of extravagance or excess. This is partly feeding on the expectations you might have for yourself, or that comparative behavior around gift giving. So what I would suggest is really truly try and attune and listen to what your partner might want or need in order to feel loved. And it doesn't need to cost a bomb. It genuinely doesn't. Try and catch when you're falling in that cycle and pull yourself on it, because you don't want to end up creating so much stress and overwhelm for the sake of 24 hours, because then it's going to be done and it's going to take so much out of you, not just financially but mentally and emotionally as well. Discerning who to give your time to, and I think this is a big one. You can't and won't have time for everybody, and that's okay. There's these implied expectations at this time of year that you're going to run around, see everybody, catch up with everybody, and it might not be possible for you to do that, but allow yourself to spend time with the people who make you feel connected, that you want to be around. Your time and energy is precious, it is limited, but don't run yourself ragged showing up for people that ordinarily wouldn't even bother their arse or make time for you, or even be fucked if you showed up to see them. That's another big thing about discernment. Be around the people and places that you need and want to be around, that you feel valued when you're there. Back on the boundary thing, standing over how you feel and standing over what you want to do this time of year. Who you're spending your holidays with and how you're spending your holidays. Because again, I'm going to be talking to people that are going to be receiving this in different ways. Some people have partners, some people have kids, some people will be single, some people will be doing different things. You might be doing something very unconventional. Not everybody else might agree with it or like what you're choosing to do, but honor yourself, have your boundaries in place. Not everybody's got safe or healthy family dynamics. You don't have to placate the people around you who might be putting pressure on you, trying to figure out your plans, or even if it's people like colleagues that are just being nosy about your business. You don't have to disclose things if you don't want to. Remember, it's your business, it's nobody else's. And that comes back to this conversation about like who you choose to spend your time with. Family isn't always blood related. Family isn't always, that blood relation. It's the people who are there for you, the people that show up through the good, the bad, the ugly, the hard times, that make you feel seen, heard, and understood and safe. The people that make you feel loved. Your support system that you've created and developed separate from your biological family. And again, I'm speaking to the people that have had to de-enmesh from unsafe and abusive systems, like the people that have brilliant, healthy, loving and supporting families. Amazing. I'm really happy for you, but for the people that don't, It's about recognizing that you can create those familial connections with people that aren't blood related. And just in that family system conversation, being part of a family again does not mean you sacrifice yourself time and time again. Who you are, your mental and emotional well-being, just to pay the price to be a part of that system. That's not what it's about. Regardless of what time of year it is, or any expectations in place that how a holiday should be spent. If people are like, oh, what's Christmas? Like, if it's an abusive situation, if it's unsafe, it doesn't matter if it's fucking Christmas or Easter, whatever it is. If it's not a safe container for you to be in, the same stuff still happening. That does not mean that just because that expectation there that you should be a part of that means that you should self-betray and go back into that system. That's a big thing that you can let go of. There's a lot of unhealthy beliefs that are connected to family, like family's family. You always put family first, and that means that you turn a blind eye to all sorts of harm or abusive behavior, and that's simply not true. It's just simply not true. You don't always have to forgive and forget. You don't have to behave as if nothing happens. You don't have to cover up, deny, turn a blind eye to things, keep secrets that are fucking massively damaging. Um, Pretending that things are okay when it's not, toning yourself down, tolerating aggressive, abusive, harmful people, and letting yourself be mistreated just because it's in the name of family. And I think for the people that are listening to this, who have maybe in their wider system or circle have had somebody that's taken themselves out of a situation, they don't really fully appreciate or understand why. Nobody, and this isn't my experience, nobody leaves a family system without massive thought. It has usually taken them a long time to get to this place. It's not an easy thing to do. They've probably tried multiple things over many periods of time to make this work. They've probably forgiven people. They've probably tolerated a lot of shit to get to this point. And if it's got to that point where they have had to prioritize their mental, physical, and emotional well-being to take themselves out of that situation, the last thing that they need is another person's opinion or judgment on doing that, regardless if it's Christmas. You might hear people saying, oh, but it's your mother, oh, it's your father, oh, it's your so-and-so. Like, that is none of your fucking business. You haven't walked a mile in that person's shoe. You do not know what that system might be like behind closed doors. You genuinely don't. And this is even for family connected to family. Just because you have an idea who that person is, you don't know what they might be like behind closed doors. You don't know how they might have been behaving. You don't know the harm that might have been caused and for how long. And this is the thing about empathy, and this is the thing about being curious. Be curious, don't be judgmental. Try and recognize that this isn't an easy thing for people to do. They're in enough pain. They might have even been the scapegoat to the black sheep in the family. It might have taken years to get them to this place. They might have normalized so much of the stuff that was going on and had to put up with so many other narratives being spun as to why things are the way they are. But ultimately, if somebody has de-enmeshed and disconnected or has become estranged from their family, it's fucking hard. It doesn't mean that they don't love their family. This is the thing. There can often be very, very conflicting feelings. They can love their family and hate the fact that things are the way that they are, but they might recognize that it's not safe to be in that system, whether it's fucking Christmas or not. It doesn't mean that they've stopped loving their family just because they've moved away. They could be grieving the idea of the parent that they didn't have, the sibling that they didn't have, the memories of safety and a happy childhood that maybe weren't there. There's a lot of stuff that can come up, and they have to process that. And the last thing that they need in that pain and in that place is judgment. They're trying to break a cycle. They're trying to keep themselves safe, and very often they're punished as a result of doing this. And this is what I'm saying. A lot of those family beliefs can keep people so stuck. There's a lot of unhealthy family beliefs, like, always put up with X, Y, and Z. Your parents are your parents, so that means like they're infallible. They can't do anything wrong. And this doesn't get in the boot on the parents either. I know people are always doing their very best. This idea that blood's thicker than water. Nobody loves you like your family, or family comes first. And how dare you ever talk about anything that happened behind closed doors like that? That perpetuates more shame. It perpetuates more abuse. And that's the thing. Sometimes people have just had to take themselves out of those situations to be safe. For other reasons, like, you might not actually stay in a family home. You might choose to stay in a hotel. You might choose to stay with slightly different people. You might turn down meeting certain family members because, again, it's your boundaries with them. You might not commit a certain invitations, certain things that are happening. You might not always be available for every aspect of your time at home. And that's okay. Like, there is no blueprint. There is no strict guide as to how to navigate this. But I think being true to yourself, sitting with what feels right, acknowledging that this is a strange time of year. It's a very difficult time of year in many ways, and just taking a bit of pressure off yourself. There's a lot of stuff that can also come up for parents. There's a lot of stuff that can come up in families as well. And as I say, we're all meeting people at various stages of dysregulation, destabilization. There's a lot of stuff going on. And I think, like what I was saying there about self-care, where you're choosing to spend your time, where you're choosing to take care of yourself, like your boundary setting, getting off social media, not going down scroll holes, not going into that comparative culture, not spending to keep up with the Joneses, all that other bullshit, can be a big, big help. And I think, like, just on that, everything I spoke about with grief and everything I spoke about, like trauma connected this time of year, it's all valid. It's just important to keep in mind if you're feeling a wee bit off, or if you hate this time of year, if you're just struggling, and for the people that are coming in and out of relationships, I get it. This is very, very hard. It's maybe the first anniversary without your partner. Maybe it's your first year single, or maybe you're at a stage in your life where you never thought you were going to be single, and this is hard to swallow. And all the nostalgia and all the memories are coming up from the past, and that's why I'm saying be gentle with yourself. Take time to attend yourself, ground yourself. Allow yourself support. Be around your friends. Be around the family that are there for you. Allow yourself to be supported, but also do your part in taking care of yourself as well. I just want to say thanks to absolutely everybody that's listened to this podcast and that has shared it with friends or family. Like, I'm beyond appreciative. I am so thankful for the people that have listened to this. And I'm going to be much more intentional and focused and consistent going forward. I've probably said that before on these podcasts, but I'm going to be definitely a lot more switched on in the new year. And I just want to say thanks so much for listening.